On September 27, 2024, during the United Nations General Assembly in New York, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu faced a dramatic protest. More than half of the diplomats present turned their backs on him and walked out.
Order, please.
This was a clear message against Israel's military actions in Gaza and Lebanon. Despite this protest, Israel also began attacking Yemen. Focusing on Gaza, in the past year alone, over 42,000 innocent civilians, including women and children, have been killed, and millions have been displaced. The United States, European Union, and the United Kingdom have all warned Israel that this conflict could take a devastating turn. This concern became reality on October 1, 2024, when Iran launched 200 ballistic missiles at Israel from 1,800 kilometers away. As of October 2nd, reports indicate that despite Israel's retaliatory efforts, they have been unable to fully stop Iran's offensive. To truly understand Israel's power and influence, it's essential to first grasp the current situation. The conflict between Israel and Palestine has deep historical roots, existing even before the formation of modern Israel and Palestine. Today, Palestinians are confined to a small strip of land called the Gaza Strip, which spans just 360 square kilometers. This area is tightly controlled, bordered by the Mediterranean Sea, Egypt, and Israel on two sides. Supplies can only enter Gaza when Israel allows it, which has led the international community to describe it as the world's largest open-air prison. Gaza is controlled by Hamas, a militant group. Last October, after Hamas fired thousands of rockets into Israel, the Israeli military responded with ongoing airstrikes and ground operations. These operations have had a devastating impact on Gaza's civilian population. Over 42,000 people, including children, have lost their lives. Thousands have been displaced, and countless more have been injured. Gaza, once a lively city, is now little more than a heap of rubble. While Israel claims that these actions are aimed at eradicating Hamas militants, it's difficult to believe that 42,000 people, representing around 8% of Gaza's 2017 population, were all militants. For the civilians of Gaza, the only option to escape Israel's bombardment is to flee to Lebanon. However, this journey is extremely difficult. To reach Lebanon, one must first enter Egypt, cross the Red Sea into Jordan, travel through Syria, and finally arrive in Lebanon. Once there, they would enter a country where Hezbollah, an Iranian-backed militant group, holds significant power and has openly supported Hamas. Hezbollah emerged in the 1980s during Lebanon's civil war, when Israel occupied South Lebanon. The group was formed to resist Israeli occupation, eventually forcing Israel to withdraw. Since then, Hezbollah has grown into both a political and military force, stronger than the Lebanese army itself, with substantial backing from Iran. Since Hezbollah's inception, it has posed a constant threat to Israel. After the renewed violence in Gaza last year, Hezbollah openly voiced its support for the Palestinian cause, creating new challenges for Israel, which now had to confront both Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Many believe that Israel's need for justification to directly attack Lebanon led to the planning of the pager attacks on September 17th and 18th, 2024. During these attacks, over 3,000 pagers and radio sets exploded simultaneously. Hezbollah blamed Israel for the attacks and retaliated by firing rockets into Israeli territory. Seizing the opportunity, Israel launched airstrikes on South Lebanon the following day. Thousands of civilians fled their homes as Israeli forces pushed deeper into Lebanese territory. During this operation, Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah, was killed. Meanwhile, the international community has made multiple attempts to mediate and end the conflict, but many nations have condemned Israel's aggressive actions. Despite growing international criticism, Israel has continued its military campaigns. Many countries have called for an end to the violence in the Middle East. Some, like the United States, have also sent aid to Gaza. On September 30th, 2024, the U.S. announced new aid for Palestinians, aimed at helping civilians affected by the conflict. Earlier, in March 2024, U.S. President Joe Biden had pledged to build a military port for Gaza. And on March 27th, the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, announced an immediate $53 million assistance package for Gaza. Despite these aid packages and diplomatic gestures, Israel has intensified its military operations. This raises a crucial question. How has Israel, a relatively small country surrounded by Arab nations, become seemingly unstoppable? Over the past year, the situation in Gaza has been brought up 3 times at the United Nations Security Council. In each instance, when a ceasefire resolution was proposed, the United States used its veto power to block the agreement. This is the same United States that has pledged millions in aid for Gaza, but continues to shield Israel from international pressure. In June 2024, the U.S. itself introduced a ceasefire resolution, which was passed by the Security Council, but it was vetoed shortly afterward. On one hand, President Biden has stated that war benefits no one. Yet on the other, the U.S. continues to block ceasefires that could potentially save lives. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI, from 2019 to 2023, 69% of Israel's weapons were imported from the United States. Additionally, the U.S. provides Israel with $3.8 billion in annual military aid. This relationship has raised concerns globally, as many argue that while the U.S. talks about stopping the violence, it simultaneously arms Israel, allowing the conflict to continue. So, why does the U.S. provide such unwavering support to Israel? The answer seems rooted in a complex mix of religious beliefs, political influence, and financial interests. A study conducted by Wheaton College in the U.S. found that 35 to 40% of the American population closely follows the Bible and believes in biblical prophecies, many of which are linked to the existence of Israel. Christian Zionists, who support Israel for religious reasons, form a significant political force in the U.S., advocating for pro-Israel policies. Organizations like CUFI Christians United for Israel have millions of members and wield considerable influence over American politics. Although Christianity and Judaism are different religions, Zionism, a political movement advocating for the State of Israel, has been embraced by many Christian Zionists. This support extends to the powerful pro-Israel lobbying group, AIPAC, American Israel Public Affairs Committee. AIPAC works to ensure that U.S. policies are favorable to Israel, and its influence is immense. 98% of candidates it supported in recent elections won their races, with AIPAC contributing millions of dollars to political campaigns. In fact, AIPAC has been involved in defeating politicians who oppose pro-Israel policies. The group proudly states that it has helped defeat 24 candidates who challenged pro-Israel positions. This shows how deeply AIPAC influences U.S. political decisions in favor of Israel. AIPAC's reach extends even further. For instance, in April 2024, South Africa filed a case against Israel at the International Criminal Court, ICC, accusing Israel of war crimes in Gaza. The ICC operates independently of the U.S., but when reports emerged that the ICC was preparing to issue arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other leaders, 12 U.S. senators sent a threatening letter to the ICC's chief prosecutor, Karim Assad Khan. The letter warned that if the ICC pursued Israel, the U.S. would impose severe sanctions on the court and ban Khan and his family from entering the United States. The letter ominously concluded with the words, "If you target Israel, we will target you." Beyond the political and military ties, financial connections between the U.S. and Israel are also significant. Bonds, which are typically issued by governments to raise funds from investors, have become another means of support for Israel. In August 2023, a representative of Israeli bonds approached Ohio's state treasurer, asking if they would purchase $5 million worth of Israeli bonds. Surprisingly, the deal was approved within 40 minutes, bypassing the usual red tape. Since the start of the Hamas-Israel conflict, various U.S. states and municipalities have bought at least $1.7 billion in Israeli bonds. This web of political, military, religious, and financial ties helps explain why the U.S. continues to support Israel so staunchly. The Middle East plays a strategic role in U.S. geopolitics, particularly with ongoing tensions between the U.S. and Iran. Whether it's the 20-year occupation of Afghanistan or the war in Iraq, the U.S. sees Israel as a crucial ally in a volatile region. Achieving peace in the Middle East doesn't have to be impossible. Many Arab nations have long supported a two-state solution, which would give Palestinians their own independent state alongside Israel. However, Israel has consistently rejected this proposal. Despite growing international criticism and calls for peace, Israel continues its military operations, leaving Gaza in an increasingly dire state. As always, we appreciate your support for our channel. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. We'll see you in the next video.